Doyara Sagara Dasa Karuna Kori. Oh, hey, Vaishnava Thakur, Doyara Sagara Dasa Karuna Kori. Diya Padachaya Shoro He Amare Tomara Charana Gori. Chaya Pegadomi Chaya Tosha Shoti Chaya Guna Deho Dase. Chaya Satsanga Deho He Amare Boshashi Sangera. Ekaki Amar Nahi Par Balo Harinama Sankirtane. Tumi Kripa Kori Sharabindu Diya Deho Krishna Nama Thane. Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati ache. Amito Ganga Krishna Krishna Boli Daitava Pache Pache. Ohe Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagara Dasa Karuna Kori. Translation. O Venerable Vaishnava Thakur, O Ocean of Mercy, be merciful to this servant of yours, everyone, and purify me in the shade of your lotus feet. Your lotus feet I humbly hold. By helping me control the 6 urges and purifying me of the 6 faults, bestow upon your servant the 6 good qualities. O Master, please give me the 6 kinds of holy association. I have sat down here, hoping to have your company. Alone, I do not find the strength to chant the holy name of Hari. Please be merciful in blessing me with a drop of faith. Bestow on me the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours, and you can give him to me, for such is your power. This wretch is simply running behind you crying out, Krishna, Krishna. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Ujjvala Varana Urabhadateha Vilasita Niravari Baba Videham Bhuvana Pavana Kripayalesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachi Tanayam Gadgaram Tara Baba Vikara Gurujana Karjana Nada Vishalam Bhavabhaya Bhajana Karana Karana Tamrana Mamicha Shri Satchitanayam Aganam Bharadara Charuka Kola Hindu Nindita Nakachaya Vichiram Japitan Jaguna Nama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Satchitanayam Digalita Nayana Kamala Jalakaram Bhushana Navarasa Bhava Vikaram Gati Ati Mantara Nidyavilasam Tamranamami Cha Shri Satchitanayam Chanchara Charuchara Gati Ruchira Madhira Ranjita Pada Yuga Madhuram Chandra Benindita Shitala Varanam Tamranamami Cha Shri Satchitanayam Tora Kamandalikanda Divyakalevara Ninditalinam Jujana Kalmasha Kandana Dandam Tankaramami Cha Shri Satchitanayam Bhushana Buraja Lakavalika Kavita Vindara Vararuchiram Malaya Javira Chitta Ujalakilakam Tamranamami Cha Shri Satchitanayam Ninditaruna Kamala Dalanayanam Ajarulam Dita Shri Vijayugalam Shri Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaurahari. Jai Gaurahari. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8. English. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Who is the Lord of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Supersoul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adiyagya, the Lord of sacrifice. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. One who, at the time of death, fixes his life air between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in their renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses, and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. for one who always remembers me without deviation. I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. This world is annihilated. That part remains as it is. That which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God, in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet but again comes back. According to Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. All the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjuna. They are never bewildered. Therefore be always fixed in devotion. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities simply by performing devotional service. He attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal Lord. Sanskrit. Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna Vacha. Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adi bhutam cha kim proktam adi daivam kim uchyate adi yagya katam kotra dehe smin madhusudana prayana kale cha katam geyosi niyatatma bhi Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Sabhavo Dhyatma Muchyate Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangita Adi Bhutam Sharo Bhava Purushashari Daivatam adiyagyohamevatra dehe deha bratambara antakale chamameva smaran mukva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nasyatra sangshayaha yang yang vapi smaran bhavam tajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaite kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mami vaishyasya samshayaha abhyasa yoga yuktena Shetasananyagamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Partanu Chintayan Kavim Puranam Anushashitaram Anodaniyam Samanusmadidyaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastad Prayana Kale Manasa Chalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Bhalena Chaiva Bruvor Madhye Pranamabesha Samyak Satam Varam Purusham Upaiti Divyam Yadaksharam Veda Vado Vadanti Vishanti yad yattayo vitaraga Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti Tate padam sangrahena pravakshe Sarva dvarani samyamya Manohriti narudyacha Muadyadhayatmana pranam Astito yogadharanam Om ityekaksharam brahma Yaharan mam anusmaram Yaprayati tjajandeham Sayati paramam gatim Ananya cheta satatam Yo mam smarati nityashaha Tasyaham sulabha partha Nitya yuktasya yogina Mamupetya punarjanma Dukalayam ashashvatam Napnuvanti mahatmana Samsiddhim paramam gata Abrahma bhuvana loka Punar avartinorjuna Mamupetya tu kaunteya Punarjanma navidyate Sahasra yuga paryantam Arhadya brahmano vidu Ratrim yuga sahasrantam Deho ratra vidojana Avyakta advyaktaya sarva Prabhavantya haragame Ratyagame praliyante Tatraibhavyakta sanjake Bhuta grama saevayam Bhutva bhutva praliyate Ratyagame vashapartha Prabhavatya haragame Padastasmatu bhavonyo Vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha Yaksak sarveshu bhuteshu Nasyatsu navanashyati Avyakto shara ityuktas Tamahu paramam gatim Yam prapya nanivartante Tadama paramam mama Purushasa paraparta Bhaktya labhyastvananyaya Yasyantastani bhutani Yena sarvam idam tatam Yatra kale tvanavritim Avritim chaiva yogina Prayata yanti tam kalam vakshami bharatarshapha Agnir Jyotir Ahashukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Janaha Dumo Ratristata Krishna Shanmasa Dakshanayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate Shukla Krishna Gati Yete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatya Navratim Anyaya Vartate Punaha Naite Sriti Partha Janan Yogi Muyati Kashana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna Vedeshu Yagneshu Tapassu Chaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Palam Pratishtam Atyeti Tatsarvamidam Vaditva Yogi Param Stanam Upaiti Chadyam Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambhade Taraka Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamo Dhyayaha Hare Om Srimad Bhagavatam class. Gaur Premanande Haribol.
guides. I asked that Prabhuji to offer you breakfast chips. Okay?
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. May I have seventh canto, please? Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Now we're going to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, and I'll start today at text number 7, and we'll read a few verses because these are the prayers that Prahlad Maharaj offers to Lord Nrsingadev, and we're studying this section, and it's a well-quoted section of the Bhagavatam because there are so many conclusions given by Prahlad Maharaj in his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. First, offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all the assembled devotees. Vancha kalpadurbrishcha kripasinabhe vachak patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Did she get the movie? So, the first verse we'll look at today is the description that's given by Shukadeva Goswami, who's speaking the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and he has recounted the story of how Prahlad Maharaj was born from Hiranyakashipu. His wife's name is, what is her name? Kayadu. And of course, Hiranyakashipu had, by the time of Prahlad's birth, had terrorized the universe. He was materialistic, and he also had a sense of how to gain more power. One of the compelling features for a living entity is to get some power of some kind. And it's hard to give up. Sociologically, there are descriptions of how when people get power, they have a hard time giving it up, and rather than doing their duty, they try to protect their position of power. That slows things down a lot. And Hiranyakashipu knew that by performing tapasya, there were laws of the universe through which he could gain materialistic power. In fact, there are ways in which the Vedas describe how to become powerful. There have been political regimes in the past that referred to the Vedas and understood various principles and tried to emulate the practices of Hiranyakashipu in their own ways in order to seize power. There have been countries that have, or leaders of countries who have thought, why don't we just set about taking over the whole world? And they've, through developing military might and through psychological means, they've tried to reach out and take over the world. In the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's the Bhumi Gita, in which Bhumi, who's earth personified, muses over the way in which human beings who get power try to conquer various parts of the earth. And she laughs because if you have the perspective even of geological time and you watch people come and go, it seems comical that somebody would try to claim a part of the earth. And she goes on to say they're not satisfied even when they get land, they also want the water too. And they claim this is the demarcation, we own this, and in the future we'd like to claim that also. And this goes on in the material world. When Kayadu was pregnant and Hiranyakashipu was off performing more tapasya, the demigods, fearing that the offspring of Hiranyakashipu might be twice as bad, or at least they didn't want to maintain or encourage that dynasty from increasing. And therefore, out of a sense of protecting the universe, they kidnapped Kayadu, the wife of Hiranyakashipu. And as they were taking her away, Narada Muni intercepted them and interceded in their kidnapping attempt and informed them that you don't know who's in the womb of Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu. It's actually a highly elevated devotee. They didn't know that. How could they? But they accepted it because it was spoken by Narada Muni. Narada Muni is truthful in all circumstances. Even sometimes when we hear him tell the truth, for instance, in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, we're thinking, what are you doing? Because he was the one who went and informed Kamsa that, oh no, Krishna's here. And Kamsa then escalated his nefarious activities of trying to kill him, and he just said, we'll kill everybody and then we'll make sure. He had his purposes, did Narada. That was to escalate the appearance of Krishna's leelas, and he knew that Krishna was not someone who could be killed anyway. It's mentioned in the Yoga Sutras, one of the mystical powers one can develop is that if you always tell the truth, you're avowedly truthful, then people will always believe what you say. And it's a kind of mystic power that he describes. Vasudeva had that, because when he told Kamsa that I'll give you all the children that are born from Devaki, he believed him, because everybody knew Vasudeva always told the truth. He had a special power like that. So when Narada Muni told the Devas that this is a great devotee in the womb of Kayadu, they just believed him. And Prabhupada comments in his purport that this is the power of Guru Parampara. When someone who's beyond the modes of material nature, not subjected to the faults caused by being infected by the modes of nature, for instance, cheating by embellishing the truth or lying, then people believe them. So they believed him, and they handed over Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu, to Narada. Oh, Narada's a brahmachari, but still, he took her into his ashram, knowing that he wasn't alone. Also, Prahlad was there within the womb. And he gave Prahlad, he was speaking to the child in the womb, he extensively taught him, even though he was in the womb. This is one of the indications of the power of transcendental sound vibration. Once a devotee was in a coma, and the devotees came to chant to the devotee, and the doctor said, oh, she can't hear you. And the devotee said, well, how do you know? He said, well, she's not responding to anyone. And they had kirtan, and she woke up. And the doctor said, oh, I'm not saying that happens every time, but there is a way in which, beyond just the covering of the material body, and which is in gross and subtle form, the soul can be touched, is touched directly by the sound vibration. And therefore, even those who are materialistic are advised to stay in the association of devotees, because in the association of devotees, satam prasangam mama virya sambido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha. joshanat asho apavargavartmani shada ratir bhaktir anukramishruti. There's a way in which Kapila Dev says to his mother, when you stay in the association of devotees, they talk about Krishna. Machita magata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantashtamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. That's Krishna. I'm quoting secondly. He says in the Bhagavad Gita that the preoccupation of the devotees is to talk about me. That's what they do. Katayantashtamam nityam, always. Though their katha is not about the 24-hour news cycle, it's about Krishna. In fact, when I stayed in Govardhan, which I have for the last 21 years, 20 consecutive, should have been 22, except for some little glitch in the universe. And Jayadvaita Swami used to stay there, and every morning when we'd sit together for breakfast, he'd always say, "Did you hear about it?" And I'd say, "What?" And he'd say, "No, it's everywhere. It's on the news." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Krishna killed this big snake." Everybody's used to some recount of what's going on in the political world, or they're attuned to that. But devotees, katayantashtamam nityam, they're tuned into hearing Krishna Katha. And there's all good effect in that. Satam prasangam amavirya sambido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana Katha. Such a vibration goes into the ear, says Kapila Dev, and it ends up in the heart, and it transforms the heart. And how dramatically does it transform the heart? That it instills within the listener a desire to leave the material universe, or the wherewithal to do so. Means that pavarga is the path of material life. Pa, ba, ma. The Sanskrit syllables describe the encumberment of being in the material world, where you have to work hard, it's very difficult, there's failure, and then there's death. In other words, I forget the bumper sticker, but something and then you die. That's pa, ba, ma. And then when you hear Krishna Katha, it's reviving. There is a Ayurvedic medicine, I think it's called Mrityu Sanjivani. In fact, I used to try to find some, because it says that it can bring a dead body back to life. And it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, also in the 7th canto, in which Maya Danava made a pool of that, and that when the demons were being killed by Lord Shiva, Maya Danava said, well, to the other demons, just throw the bodies in there, they'll come back to life. I never quite found the exact medicine, but hope springs eternal. So, if one hears Krishna Katha, then you get apavarga, which means it reverses the effects of the material world. That's the real Ayurvedic medicine that not just increases your lifespan, but makes you eternal. Because we are eternal, but we're caught in the cycle of birth and death. But one can cross beyond that. How? By hearing Krishna Katha. And when does it happen? Or how does it happen? How quickly does it happen, I should say? Touch Joshanat Ashu Apavargavartmi. Quickly. Fairly quickly. Depends on your perspective. Touch Joshanat Ashu Apavargavartmini Shradaratir Bhaktir Anukramashriti. Anukrama means step by step it'll happen for you, in stages. If you go on taking it, then gradually, one thing will follow another. One step, one stage will follow another. And it starts with shraddha, or a sense of dedication to the process. This is a good idea. Ratir means that you'll actually start loving it. And bhaktir means you'll be reestablished in your original eternal position in a relationship with Krishna from hearing this. So Narada knew this, of course, and it had happened for him, hadn't it? Say yes. He had the good fortune of having sages, great devotees, stay in his home. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam about how Narada Muni lived with his mother. No father is mentioned. And during the rainy season, there's a tradition that sadhus would find a dwelling to stay in because the roads were impassable at that time. Although sadhus would travel constantly to teach others Krishna consciousness, during that time they'd hunker down. And they had chosen this lowly place, lowly in the sense that it was just Narada, the future Narada Muni, and his mother. He was just a 5-year-old child at the time, and he had stayed there. The sages had stayed there, and his mother and Narada had attended to them, feeding them, and Narada did little tasks to serve them, and he would sit and listen. And the sages were so impressed with him, actually it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, that the sages stayed more than the rainy season. They actually stayed 2 seasons because they saw so much potential in this boy. And they stayed extra time because they thought, good investment here, good place to teach Krishna consciousness. And it paid off, of course, as we know, in the story of Narada, that after the sages left, his mother died. She had been bitten by a snake when she went out to milk a cow, and then Narada, being elevated by the association of those sages, had no means of a proper funeral, so it's mentioned that he made a funeral pyre of what was left of the house, and his mother was inside, and he lit it on fire and walked away. So no mother, no father, no house. How does it feel when that happens? The closest thing we have is when you leave your cell phone somewhere. You go, I don't have it now. I'm not going to get it back for a while. And I was like, oh, let me look at the world again in a new light. So Narada Muni then went out in the world, and he observed how Krishna was taking care of him at every step. He had learned so much and changed so much from the inside out from the association of these sages. It was just around 6 months or so that he had the association. And also it's mentioned very specifically that he had asked them once for the remnants of their food. And they said, yes, you can take. So these are the intimate dealings, hearing, chanting, serving, and so forth with Vaishnavas. And then we know that Narada had gone to many different environments and had observed how God's energies were working. And then when he went to a lonely forest, he sat down and he was chanting and meditating in the way he had learned from the sages. And Krishna appeared to him. And Narada had a transcendent experience, so much so that he was swimming in an ocean of nectar. But then, after that momentary experience, he came back into his bodily sense, and there he was again. When you have something and then you lose it, it's twice as arduous of a loss. You have something and you lose it. Like if you lose someone gives you a jewel and you lose it. I had a wedding band, and I was in Japan. We had a Harinam on the streets. I'd taken it off, put it in my pocket, because it's hard for me to play a drum with the wedding band on. And then, because I played for so long, my fingers were a little swollen. I put my wedding band on. I walked through the streets of Tokyo, got in the van, we drove somewhere else, and then I realized it was gone. And when you have something, then you lose it, then you feel a pang. And so Narada, times a million, from the wedding band story, felt this pang of separation from Krishna, and then he said, no. Krishna spoke to him in an unembodied voice and said that this was to give you a sample experience of what it feels like, what you're working for. And he said, use this lifetime diligently to work towards this. So Narada had become a great devotee in that way. That's why I mentioned he knew the power of the association of Vaishnavas and transcendental sound. So he took up the means to purify the child within the womb. He already knew it was a great soul because Vaishnavas are informed by Krishna in various ways how they can serve. And so he took this up as his service, and he spoke Krishna Katha to Prahlad within the womb. And when Prahlad emerged from the womb, he had already heard from his spiritual master Narada and had a sense of attachment for his spiritual master. And of course, Hiranyakashipu wanted the best for his son. And as far as he was concerned, the best would be to follow in his footsteps and become a big materialist and learn how to manipulate the material world and dominate others. That was his mode in life. And he sent him to school, and he had asked him at intervals what he had learned at school. And Narada had already learned everything he wanted to learn. At least not that he didn't want to hear more, but he had learned everything that was important from Narada within the womb. He didn't consider what he was learning at school to be relevant to him. So he would just recount to his father what he had learned in the womb from Narada. And his father was frustrated with that because he had sent him to the best karmi schools to learn about how to be a nice little exploiter. And he was dismayed to find out that his son was becoming a devotee. This happens sometimes. In fact, I have memories from the old days of parents, not my parents, but other people's parents who were disappointed that their son or daughter became a devotee because they had great hopes for them of following in their footsteps and suffering in the material world just as much as they did. And they would even send people to kidnap them and hold them in places, and they had a program, well, they had a process called deprogramming, where they would hold them in a safe house for as long as it was necessary to try to get them to give up Krishna consciousness. And most of the time what would happen was the devotees would finally say, okay, you're right, I'll be a materialist, and then they'd let them out, and then they'd go back to Mangalartik. That was going on. Parents would hire such people to do that. So we could understand how agitated Hiranyakashipu must have been. In any case, we know that to protect his devotee, Lord Nrsingadev came, and he killed Hiranyakashipu. Just afterwards, all the residents of the universe came forward to offer their prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, and one after another, they offered beautiful prayers, appreciating what he had done for them, which was save them from the tyranny of Hiranyakashipu. There's so many details about this in the Bhagavatam. And afterwards, after all the prayers, sets of prayers, Lord Nrsingadev wasn't appeased. He was very angry, the angry incarnation of the Lord. And it's so much so it's mentioned that Lakshmi Devi, who was his eternal consort, was a little freaked out. They're like, is this really my husband? I've never seen him like this. So everyone felt that the only way that he could be appeased, that is that Nrsingadev could be appeased, would be if Prahlad would go forward. It's the power of a devotee. Although he's a tender child, because he had bhakti, they felt that, okay, his prayers could be really effective. And it just shows how the mood in which we offer prayers is vital. So Prabhupada describes how they pushed Prahlad forward, just the way you'd push a small child into the cage of a lion. Because Nrsingadev was still as a half-man, half-lion, frightening form of the Lord. So angry, roaring and scaring everyone. Prahlad was not afraid of him, and he came forward to offer his prayers. So now as he offers his prayers, the first prayer, it says, at number 7, that Prahlad's mind was very fixed in offering his prayers to the Lord. And it says, Ekagra Manasa, Manasa susamahita means that he was one-minded, completely fixed. His mind was completely fixed, and susamahita, means extra. Samahita, attentive. So there was no diversion to any other subject. So this is, as Prabhupada describes in commenting on this verse, this is one of the signs of advancement in devotional service. Krishna mentions it in the Bhagavad Gita, Yesham twanta katam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvanva mohanir mukta bhajanti mam dhridavrata. Dhridavrata means that you feel so fixed in your vow, you feel so fixed in your concentration on your devotional service. And this comes about by a lifestyle change. Your life changes, you change the way you live, you change the way you think, and you become purified. And then your mind becomes fixed in thinking of Krishna and in doing devotional service. So this was the case with Prahlad Maharaj. This verse is consequential in that way, describing how advanced he was. And then, prema gadgadaya vacha. Vacha means your words. And in Sanskrit, there's this gadgadaya, or gada gada. It's a onomatopoeic expression. If you've ever been stunned by some news, or you're in some kind of emotional state, and you try to say something, but your lips and tongue don't work properly, that's what gada gada describes, that you're saying it, but you can't quite say it properly because you're so emotionally charged. And in this case, Prahlad Maharaj is affected by prema, by love for Krishna, and therefore prema gadgadaya vacha, his voice falters out of prema, faltering voice. He can barely talk because he's so absorbed in love. Tanyasta hridayakshana, so this last hridayakshana, with heart and sight, and tanyasta means it's fully dedicated. His hrida means the heart, and ikshana means the vision. So his vision and heart were fully fixed on his object of love, which is Nrsingadev. And that's the state in which he begins to offer prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. So I'm going to read the purport, and then we'll take a few reflections, and I'll comment on a couple more verses. This is the translation. Prahlad Maharaj fixed his mind and sight upon Lord Nrsingadev with full attention in complete trance. With a fixed mind, he began to offer prayers in love with a faltering voice. The word susamahita means very attentive or fully fixed. The ability to fix the mind in this way is a result of yoga siddhi, mystic perfection. As it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.13.1, dhyana vastita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yang yogina. One attains yogic perfection when he is freed from all material diversions and his mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Lord. This is called samadhi, or trance. Prahlad Maharaj attained that stage beyond the senses. Because he was engaged in service, he felt transcendently situated, and naturally his mind and attention became saturated in transcendence. In that condition, he began to offer his prayers as follows. Let's see if you have any reflections from the discussion so far. Well, it's not really a discussion yet, but it could be. Yes. Hare Krishna.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe it's not the best question, but I was just very curious to know, what did Prahlad Maharaj hear from Narad Muni in the womb? Like, as in, what were the teachings of Narad Muni? What did he teach? Was it Bhagavad Gita? Or, I was just very curious to know what were the teachings.
You can sample what he learned in the womb in the chapter called What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. And Prahlad recounted it to his fellow classmates. As an example, it's Atma Tattva Gyan mainly, understanding of the difference between the soul and the body. So as an example, in his teachings to his classmates, which he was diligent about, every time the teacher would leave the room, Prahlad Maharaj would get up on the desk and say, okay, everybody over here, and he would start teaching about Atma Tattva Gyan that he had learned from Narada within the womb. And he says in one of his teachings that a geologist knows where to find gold. My sister was a geologist, and whenever I'd meet with her, we go for a walk somewhere, like over in near where I grew up. There are these trails that go through the hills, and still pristine area because the earth is not so stable there. The builders thought a few times of building there, but then they thought twice because it all slides eventually. And so the hills and the trails that go through them are still fairly unsullied by a lot of development. So whenever we'd see something, I point to it, and then she'd give me a whole history of the earth there. Oh, this is what happened. There's sedimentary rock. It's in layers. It happened over time. All these descriptions. And anywhere else, Yosemite and here and there, she'd have an explanation for anything. In fact, for some time, she worked for a oil exploration because she could look at geographical maps and find out where the likely places to drill would be, but then she decided she didn't want to work for an oil company, so she did other kinds of things, like teach. And in any case, Prahlad gives this example that somebody's eyes are trained, can find gold in the ground. Others can't. Like Shyamasundar Prabhu. He's a miner extraordinaire. They did a television program about him. Our Shyamasundar, he lives right down the road here in Santa Cruz. No, not Santa Cruz, where is it? Huh? Oh, Santa Cruz. He lives in Santa Cruz? Yeah. So I was talking to Shyamasundar, because he goes out once in a while at 81 years of old to find rare gems and gold and things like that. And I said, well, how do you do it? And he said, well, I just have an eye for it. And he was describing how he's found different deposits of rare gems and gold and things like that, because he knows what to look for. His eyes are trained. So this is one of the teachings Prahlad gave. He said, so just as a geologist knows where to find gold or rare gems by looking at the earth because his or her eyes are trained, so similarly a devotee or a person who's trained in Atma Tattva Gyan can look at the world in a different way and see a person, but he sees beyond just the body and sees, oh, there's a soul within the body. And then he sees the soul, the super soul everywhere also. And there are very practical, there's very practical knowledge like that Narada gave, and that's recounted by Prahlad Maharaj to his classmates. So it's a joy to read all those because they're very useful, practical kinds of wisdom that he learned from Narada. Yeah. This is upgrade.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this story of Narad Muni. And I was thinking, I have a question. Both Narad Muni and Prahlad, they had this they could fix their mind and had one pointed attention. And they both had fearlessness in their situation. How do we develop that fearlessness and the fixed mind?
Prabhupada lectures on this verse, Astau Sit Dharamekagra, and he says, this is not ordinary. He said, this may take thousands of lifetimes to come to this position of being so fixed. He said, it cannot be imitated. In general, we become fearless by not being materially attached. There's description of where fear comes from in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Bhayam dvitiya abhinibeshatasya ishad apetasya viparya yo smriti. And this is Havi Yogendra who says that when, is it Havi? Kavi Havi Antariksha, Prabhuda Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Drumala Chamasa, and Karabhajana. That's your 9 choices. So he says, Bhayam. Bhayam means fear. Syat. Syat means it arises naturally. When? Dvitiya. When I have this dual vision that there's, that I'm separate from God. I have a separate interest from God. In fact, I'm independent from God. Dvitiya. And this is wrong-headed, he says. It's when we're turned around from our actual position of being lovers of God, servants of God, and I start thinking I'm a competitor to God. He's persecuting me here in the material world. He's causing me all kinds of problems and suffering and so forth, I think. And he's my competitor. I'm his competitor. So he said, from that arises fear. And so what's the solution? Tanmaya tad buddha abhajetom bhaktyayika yesham gurudeva tatma. He said, turn around. Turn your head back around and realize that God's your well-wisher. And if you serve him, then you'll feel satisfied, naturally satisfied. All right, it says thousands of years to come to this position, but even in this lifetime, if we're diligent in following the basics of Krishna consciousness, we'll very quickly, almost immediately feel this sense of focus. Almost immediately. Not in the same level as Prahlad, because Prabhupada says it's a very rare thing to have this intensity of love. But we will feel naturally satisfied and relatively free from fear to the degree that we become free from the bodily conception of life. And very practically, we attain that by chanting Hare Krishna and associating with devotees and hearing from the Bhagavad Gita. Our fear dissipates as we enter into the knowledge that Krishna gives from the Bhagavad Gita. And when we have our own experience that I'm not my body, then it's quite naturally that we interact with the world differently, that we see it differently, and that we feel a fixity in our purpose that is it's revealed in the heart of a sincere person, and Krishna helps us. A couple more? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So yeah, I really like this verse, because it gives us an understanding of the different levels of.
You get 3 likes per offering, so you've used them all up, so no more. Go ahead.
Okay. It explains about the different.
That's you owe me 5 cents for everyone after. Go ahead.
It explains the different levels of bhakti,
10 cents. Just go slower. Be thoughtful.
So there's
15 cents. I'm going to be wealthy by the end. I'm going to invest in a set of Bhagavatams. Go really slow and think. Go.
Okay. So there's the different levels of bhakti, starting from Shraddha, where we have faith.
This is nice.
Yeah.
You're doing well. Keep going slow. Think. Go slow.
Where we have faith for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we don't have faith, then there's no way we can accept any of the understanding or the description of the Supreme Lord. So, and then you're explaining about the Katha Shamam Nityam Tushyanti Charamanticha, how the devotees of the Supreme Lord, they enjoy conversing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this type of discussion is what we need for our spiritual advancement. And in this Bhagavad Gita 18.69 or 68, Krishna explains ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshu abhitasyati. Those who explain this supreme secret of the Supreme Lord to the other devotees, by conversing about him, they're able to go back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Srila Prabhupada in a lecture about this verse, he quotes from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, like Tarko Pratishta Shrutayo Vibhinna Nasa Vrishir Yasya Matam Na Bhinnam. How the yogis, the true devotees of the Supreme Lord, they know that dry speculation or just like knowledge that is gained by speculating about science or something like that is not helpful for us to progress further spiritually. It's like only by attaining prema and by getting like an unfaltering devotion for the Supreme Lord can we, by like Prahlad, can we like attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And like another quote from Srila Prabhupada's lectures, like, it's a bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, O Vaishnava Thakura, Tomara Kukura. Basically, like, it's explaining that one should try to be like a dog for this devotees of the Lord. They should offer their respects like a dog and try to serve them so that in this way they would be able to gain at least a little bit of faith of the Supreme Lord. And as you said, it might take thousands of years to get to the stage of simply just Shraddha. And from there, it might take another thousands of births to get to another level and another level until we get to Bhakti. So in this way, if we can like offer respects to the devotees of the Lord and try to get like guidance from them by inquiring questions like explained in the Bhagavad Gita, like tadvidhi pranipatina pariprashnena sevya, then we'll be able to gain at least a little bit of knowledge so we can go back to Krishna.
Thank you. First of all, you owe me 50 cents. And second of all, I'd like you to give a practical point based on what you just said, as if you're speaking to an audience at UC Berkeley who's never heard of devotional service before, has no context whatsoever to any of the Bhagavatam or devotees or what Shraddha means. So you can't use any words like that. And I want you to give one practical point from what you just said that those in that context, the people could take away. And you tell it to Anshu, because he's from UC Berkeley, but just pretend that he doesn't know anything. One practical point, very practical, that a student, a modern day student with no context for devotional service could take away from what you just said. Tell Anshu.
The purpose of discussion, I would say, in any context or any subject is so that when you like talk to others about a certain topic, you get more and more intelligence about it. So similarly, like if you want to learn about God, you go to those who know God and then you can learn from them. And then by conversing about God with them, you'll also start to learn more about God.
Now give the microphone to Anshu. And from the perspective of a brand new person who's never heard about Krishna consciousness, has no orientation whatsoever, what would be your response?
I think it makes sense, just like how when we're studying for courses at school, we form study partners, and then we learn from them. And so if we want to learn about God and study Him, we need study partners for that as well.
You picked the right person. I like all your points. Tie them up at the end and give practical points that people can take away. And it always helps to take it at the context of somebody who's not heard of this before. Try to keep thinking like that. Thank you very much. I'll send you my bill. Okay. Brajaras Bhavana?
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
In Prahlad Maharaj's life, he was his mother. You were talking about that she stayed with Narad Muni in his ashram, and that she faced no fear, and she felt protected in that place, even though Narad Muni was a brahmachari, and she was a mother with with her child in her womb. How do we, in our current world right now, how do we find these kinds of devotees that we can trust to protect us? Because sometimes we may trust someone and then we realize they're unfit for that role or being able to be there for someone else. So what is the way we can find, not Narad Muni of course, but devotees that we can trust with our own, with our lives and to take care of us?
Trust is the most valuable substance one can have in all relationships. And trust does not come cheaply. It's not something where you can go to Ace Hardware and get a little meter. It grows organically within the heart by associating with someone over a long period of time and getting to know that person. When you see consistent behavior in someone or good behavior, then you start to realize the good qualities in people. And when there are setbacks in that, in a personal relationship or in a community, then we also have to realize that humans have foibles also. You know what a foible is? Research department? I remember that word because my father once wrote me a letter about the foibles of, I said, okay, I'm looking it up. Human beings have frailties. Their human condition means we're overcome by emotions and so forth. Even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear of great personalities, even Brahma, having missteps. So when we see in devotees sometimes a misstep or a way in which we might say, oh, can I really trust this person? We also have to see how Krishna looks at the faults in his devotees when he says, Apichet sudaracharo, bhajate mam ananyabhak. Even if my devotees, if they're well-intentioned and they're determined to advance in devotional service, they are to be considered sadhus if they keep going in their practice, even if they make a misstep. We must be careful to not categorically count out people for their faults, but at the same time, we also should, we are guided by the Shastra to be discriminating in whom we associate with. In fact, it's one of the main points that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made when he was asked, what is the characteristic of a devotee? And he said, Asat Sangatyage Vaishnavachar. A devotee is somebody who's careful about associating with the right people. Or very specifically, the verse says, the person avoids bad association. Bad association means people who are attached to the material world and very optimistic about it, and who also don't believe in God. And it's rare. Sometimes Vaishnavas have faults, but one of them usually isn't giving up the idea that there's a God. They just have sensual problems sometimes. We are told by the Bhagavatam, Ishvare taradineshu balisheshu dusatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti samadhyamaha, that we should look for friendship with devotees. The verse also talks about avoiding people who are averse to devotees, but in commentaries, our acharyas say even amongst devotees, we should try to pick those that are complementary to us, that help us, and that we feel that we can trust. Others we can also appreciate from a distance. You're not obligated to associate with everybody. In a very practical sense, we have to find our niche. We find by associating with those who we find to be helpful over a period of time, and we may observe them. For instance, as a guru-disciple relationship, Sanatana Goswami wrote the Hari Bhakti Vilas on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the first two vilasas are about guru-disciple. So he mentions there that one should take time. The guru should take time to observe a disciple, and the disciple should take time to observe the guru. Be around the person's notice. Do they actually, the spiritual master is not to rubber stamp people and just say, okay, you approached, you're in, you're initiated. Because that's an offense if a person doesn't actually have faith. And by the same token, there's a way in which the disciple has to hear from the spiritual master, ask questions, observe, and see, is this person guiding me in the right way, and do I have trust? And Prabhupada used to say that our whole society is based, its foundation is love and trust. You don't have that, what do you have? Even in corporations where people get paid, you can pay everybody, but if there's not some sense of trust in the people, then they don't even care if they're getting paid. They'll probably leave and go somewhere else because they won't feel comfortable there. So you can be sure that in the war of life and the fight against Maya, there are going to be some casualties. When we enter into the process of devotional service, there are assuredly going to be cases where somebody who was fighting the righteous fight and being the devotee will at some point fall victim to Maya. And we can see how Prabhupada dealt with that. He was careful to leave openings for such persons to come back to devotional service and continue their process. And even the Bhagavatam says, Swapada mulam bhajata priyasya taktanya bhavasya hare priyeshaha. Vikarma yachchot patitam katanchid tunoti sarvam hridi sanivishtaha. What should you do if you fall down from the path of devotional service? There's some vikarma. He says that you should continue on the path of devotional service because that's the way of rectification. Because Krishna is there within the heart, and he understands if you're sincere, if you had a misstep, if you continue, then he'll purify you. That's also his direction in the Bhagavad Gita. I mentioned the verse already, api chet, which means even if someone messes up, sudaracharo, you should still encourage them, and Krishna is encouraging, keep doing devotional service. And then in the next verse he says, Shri Pram Bhavati Dharmatma Shashvach Chantim Nagashati Kaunteya Pratijanihi Nami Bhakti Pranashati. Tells Arjuna, say it out loud, that such a person who keeps going is going to be victorious eventually because they're sincere and they keep trying. It's very individual. People find in certain devotees an ideal, and it's not for us to say, to tell individuals, no, not that one. In fact, Prabhupada mentions in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam in his commentary, he said, for instance, a spiritual master, someone who's leading others in Krishna consciousness, if you go to the family members somewhere, they say, that guy? I could tell you a million things. He's a complete jerk. My brother? He doesn't know anything. Prabhupada said that that's a different context. You can't take it from them. You should still have your own understanding and connection to the person that you're taking help from as a Shiksha Guru or a Diksha Guru. And so answering the question is not a stereotype, although there are parameters. Trust is something that's very individual and that you develop after getting to know somebody and feeling inspired by somebody, and then seeing, how is this person helping me? You want to ask more? Did that answer your question, or is there more nuance to it? This is an important question.
I really like that answer. Because we're part of a more global society where we don't have the opportunity to develop trust with everyone that we want to maybe trust. Maybe we can hear someone's lecture through YouTube and we can never meet them ever in our whole life. In that sense, how can we judge a devote? Not judge, but how do we recognize who we can, who would be a good association for us or good to listen
Well, there's
from?
several ways. One way is that we find in a person's followers the qualities of the person. Some people have gone to various communities and said, wow, if the community's like this, who's the leader? You know, actually you can judge that when you go to certain places, that each community has a certain flavor. When I go to Salesforce, I realize, oh, somebody around here must have some spiritual mindedness, because there's that flavor, you know, throughout the corporation. And in spiritual societies, or very particularly within ISKCON, if you meet people's followers, and if you haven't met them yet, they say, wow, where'd you get that quality from? From our leader, from our teacher, inculcated those principles, those values in our hearts, and you can see they got something. And that's one way that you can understand the leader. But you don't have to vet every single person in the universe. You may have a big piece of land, but you're only going to be building on part of it. Let's say you buy, 10,000 acres in Montana. You're only going to be able to occupy a little space there in big sky country. And similarly, although there's a lot of possibilities within a huge organization, well, we're not actually that huge, but we do have people all over the world. If you try to keep track of everybody or follow everyone or vet everyone, it may not be possible. But what may be possible is to find your niche where you're able to make progress. It can be overwhelming to think, let me vet everybody in the world and make sure they're all good. And I remember joining the Krishna consciousness movement, I had an innocence feeling that everyone's a pure devotee. And to some degree they are. I mean, everyone, well, not everyone. There were some people who had ill intentions, very few, I would say. There were a lot that had good intentions and then weren't able to keep up on them all the time because of forces and unrealistic expectations of becoming a pure devotee in 7 days. And I do remember distinctly when I heard of somebody leaving Krishna consciousness or just having a spill in their practice of Krishna consciousness and feeling, how could that happen? How could anybody ever leave this? And a lot of people felt like that. But over time you find out that we live in the material world. There's a great battle going on, and things come out over time. It takes a long time to actually see what somebody's foundation is, because they can maybe go on for a year or 5 years or 10 years, even 20 years, and then all of a sudden something comes up. What do they do with it then? I mean, one of the ways that Madhvacharya says you could judge somebody's level of advancement is by their steadiness. Over what length of time? Is it a month? I remember I was visiting one temple, and there was a star bhakta there. No one could say enough good things about the bhakta, that he was the most amazing person, probably advanced from many lifetimes of practice, put on his tilak perfectly, chanted perfectly, did everything perfectly. And then one day at the Sunday program, he just took off all his clothes and started running down the street, knocking on people's doors, and they had to call a local mental hospital to take him away. He had been off his meds apparently and lost control. And the Star Bhakta was not as highly rated after that. And so there's a whole world out there of combinations and permutations of circumstances and personalities and so forth. Coming back to my main point is that it doesn't preclude you, because there's so many different circumstances and people from finding what works for you. Because that's what's most important. And also, going back to the point about judging people, I've seen, if you stick around long enough, you see a lot of stuff. And one of the things that you do see, I've seen, is what Krishna says is true in the Bhagavad Gita, that if someone sticks to devotional service, even if they become diverted for some time, they can easily make a comeback. And I've had, as I've said before, have had godbrothers who just went off the rails in crazy ways that I thought were like, what are you talking about? You're nuts. And it could go for 20 years until all of a sudden they just come back. And it's not as if nothing ever happened. It's like when you're on Govardhan Parikram, someone gets off the path and they lose their place. They have to come back and start over again. But actually, I've seen that those who are sincere, they may have some hidden anarthas that just come up. And if the time and place is right, those anarthas might just manifest. But because they're sincere, they can make a comeback also. And I've seen that again and again and again. And also, Krishna takes them back, and they're able to reestablish themselves in some kind of service. Maybe not exactly the way they were before, but Krishna's very kind, and so are his devotees. Okay, yes. 2 online, and then we'll... Yes, go ahead. You had your hand up first, please.
So I have a question about, I understand thoroughly the importance of being selective about your association. And at one point, you also made a point that we are not eliminating people or choosing between people, no, not this one or this one, that kind of thing. Now, my question is, as an adult, we understand how we limit our association by not disrespecting the other people, or what exactly you're trying to convey. But then, now I have a middle schooler, and it's very important for me to explain to him how his associations are causing an impact on him. But how do we tell them? How do we tell them to, differentiate between the friends and really implement this principle in their own life in a good way without hurting or affecting anybody? Or
well, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can lead a kid to wisdom, but you can't make him think. So you could do, of course, we'll all do our best, and parents do their best. Kids can be very frustrating, especially when they start coming into teenagers, because there's a way in which it's quite natural to want to leave the nest and feel one's own independence. In the beginning, we're fully dependent, and as souls and as kids, as growing up, we want to declare independence. And a lot of kids do this, not just in Krishna consciousness, but everywhere. It's a natural development of a child and an adolescent to want to feel some sense of independence. Can I survive without my parents, type of thing. It's kind of built into the survival psychology of a living entity. Birds fly out of the nest at a certain time. And then there's a way in which such adolescents will also experience the stark reality of life, and they might then come into a point of what's called interdependence, of learning how to cooperate and not be fully independent and not be fully dependent, but realize that, I do need people. And my parents did raise me, and they did sacrifice every waking moment, and even the sleeping moments to my survival, and so forth. And they do come to realize that. Could be when they're 36 years old, and you finally get a card where they say, you know what? You're really amazing. The sacrifice of being a parent. what kids have told me, or former kids, I've said this before, I conducted my own experiment because I got together during the pandemic, I got together as many of my God brothers and God sisters as I could find who had been kids in Krishna consciousness. And many of them had taken it seriously and been initiated when they were young. Some of them even 12, 14 years old, precocious kids that Prabhupada gave initiation to. And I asked them what were the factors that helped you and what were the factors that limited your growth in Krishna consciousness. And we came up with two principles. One is, they said that the main factor that helped us was, here's the mantra, seeing peers doing great. It's only 4 words. When they saw their peers doing great, then they also wanted to emulate. And that's quite natural for kids. You can tell them all you want as a parent, but until they see their peers or have an association with peers whom they admire, they say, like, that guy's cool. And wow, he likes Krishna? Maybe I'll like Krishna too. And the delimiting principle, they said, was not having upward mobility. So they saw a big, vast movement. There were kids. Everyone had a service. Not everyone, but a lot of people had services, and they thought, well, we'll never be included because we're not really counted. There's a lot of people felt that in the early stages of the Krishna consciousness movement and were estranged because of that, because they didn't see where they fit in. All the spots were filled. So, which may not have been completely true, but the fact that they felt like that meant that, that can be addressed in any group, is to give everyone an opportunity to grow in Krishna consciousness and have a stake in it, and especially kids. So those are a couple of principles, and when you can have kids be around those who are a similar age, and if they can become socialized, meaning they become part of the group and start feeling like part of it, then there's a way in which they kind of naturally develop their own values that this is important to me. Okay, there's 2 online. It looks like, did you have your hands up there? Shankari Kaur and Vaikuntha Nayaka.
Hare Krishna, Guru.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my most respectful obeisances at your feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, since we are talking about association, my question is virtual association less effective than physical association? Is there any difference? And does it make any difference in the sadhana or in the progress of a devotee?
I don't know how you feel right now.
Maharaj, I've heard so many things about it, like people keep comparing. They do say that, it's out there, turn to YouTube, and you would not know which to see, which not to see. But then that's not enough. You've got to come to the temple. You've got to meet devotees. I understand all of that, but devotees who are limited like I am, where I don't have ready association, I'm a totally virtual devotee. So, Maharaj, I was just...
Well, it's quite natural to want to get closer when you want to pick up somebody's aura. I mean, why do people go to a Taylor Swift concert anyway? They want to be there. They want to feel what it's like. And if they get front row seats, then they might like, yeah, I was right up close. But at the same time, if we're sincere and we are getting association through Vani, then we can make advancement. It is also important to develop relationships with devotees. I notice a big difference in my God brothers and God sisters who had association directly with Srila Prabhupada. There's a certain quality they have, kind of being there with him and getting instruction from him directly. There's a high value on that. But at the same time, Prabhupada himself didn't have much association with his guru. He did have some, but it wasn't like he was sitting in on every class every day in the front row. He was working, and he had a family and so forth. But he took very seriously the kind of instructions that he did get from his guru, and he said, I'm never separated from my Guru Maharaj. I always feel his connection. And Prabhupada writes in the Adi Leela about Guru Tattva, the first chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is about Guru Tattva, because the book begins with Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan, Ishan Isha Vatarakan, talking about the gurus. So anybody who wants to study Guru Tattva should read that chapter, all the purports. Doesn't take you long. And in that, one of his purports, Prabhupada says that in the absence of the spiritual master, one should take the spiritual master's instructions as one's pride and joy and be attached to those. And in that way, one feels a connection. And again, it's not stereotype. There's ways in which everyone finds their way in Krishna consciousness. We all have slightly different circumstances, especially nowadays. We live in different places, and we have different kinds of access and so forth. So if you make an absolute statement that you can only advance like this, then we can contradict that by showing examples in Shastra about those who had very little association with their spiritual master, but were able to advance anyway. Digital is a great opportunity, actually. But we shouldn't then start making a doctrine that, it doesn't matter if you associate with the person. I've felt it myself. We just went to Calcutta, and we went to Prabhupada's birthplace, and we went to the bridge where he left, and it's described how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself met his spiritual master, and then after his spiritual master left, he went to his birthplace, and he took some dirt from the place, and he kept it in his cloth, and he would take a little piece of it just as a visceral experience of connection to his guru. And I've really felt a strong connection to Prabhupada after we went to Calcutta this time. And we've been there other times. We went there very deliberately to visit Prabhupada's Janmastan and the place where he worshipped his deities. I think a lot of the devotees who were on that tour felt it also. And so there's great value to having this sense of personal connection with a devotee. And there are different ways in which you do that. So anyway, those are a few thoughts. Thank you, Shankari Kaur. Let's have Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu.
Dandat Pranam Guru Maharaj, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to yourself. Maharaj, this was regarding the point about when you mentioned about those devotees who have been there, but who kind of fall down, but after many years they again come back. You also briefly talked about that they're sincere, right? So that sincere aspect, can you please elaborate? I mean, I'm not worried about judging whether the other person is sincere or not. I'm more concerned about myself. Many times I don't live up to the standards that I have for myself. Then again I come back, then again I fall down, again something, right? So that sincerity aspect, do I have, or on those aspects, could you please highlight some points, please?
Do you have
and
it?
The second,
Second, I can only handle one at a time, I think.
sorry, go ahead.
It's another one of those valuable substances, sincerity. And you could take it to a laboratory at UC Berkeley, and somebody can analyze it in a test tube. You have to find it in your own self. And there's a spark we have it's a natural spark of desire to want to do the right thing. Right thing is to serve Krishna and be a good person even. And if we can fan that spark by having good association of people who are high-minded, it can develop in us. The material world is onerous in the sense that there are a lot of forces even within our own self that we have to contend with. And one of the great doubts sometimes people have is, am I really qualified to take to devotional service? And that comes up in the next few verses here in the Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. He's ruminating that, okay, all these great devotees have offered prayers. And he named Brahma Daya Suraganam Muniyota Siddha Satvai Katana Katayo Vachasam Bravahe Naradi Tum Guruganan Aranapi Pipru Kim Toshnam Arhati Samehar Ugrajate. He said, all these great personalities have offered prayers, and how elevated are they compared to me? And then he said, but the Lord wasn't exactly satisfied with that. And then in the next one he says that Manyedana Bijana Rupa Tapashutaujas Teja Pravava Balapurush Buddha Yoga Naradanaya Hibhavanti Parashapumso Bhaktyatu Tosha Bhagavan Gajayutapaya. He says, I don't think the Lord cares for all these qualities like wealth. Somebody's wealthy, or they're very strong, or they have mystic potencies. And he gives a long list. But he says, but I know of the elephant Gajendra. He was, as Prabhupada said, he may have been a big fatty animal. But because he was sincere and he just tried, even though it wasn't ideal, it didn't look that great. I mean, he's walking around like the king of the jungle, and he liked cracking the branches under his feet, because like some people wear these shoes with the heels, and they come clanking down the hall like, here I come. That was Gajendra. Like, I'm here, watch out. I got a 1600 on my test, or whatever I may be thinking I'm full of. And then he thought like that, I'm the biggest animal in the jungle, everyone gets out of my way. And then he got caught. He got caught unawares. He got then trapped by an alligator, a crocodile, and he tried to shake it off, he tried to fight it off, couldn't do it. It was messy. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you think you're something great, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, but you forgot the whole other half, or or you totally blew something, and you were thinking you were flying high, and then suddenly you realize, does this resonate with anybody, I hope? Yeah? And then all of a sudden you realize, boy, I'm such an idiot. So that was a messy situation for the big, powerful elephant to get caught by a smaller animal. And then he realized that, I'm so foolish. So what'll I do? I'll just surrender to Krishna. And then he admits, like, these aren't very good prayers, because generally devotees offer prayers in ideal circumstances where they say, my Lord, I don't want anything. I just want service. And he goes, I do want something. I want this crocodile off my leg. And I'm sorry to even bother you, but here it is. That's my problem. It is a very messy situation, but he did what he could. And then when he did it, it's like, what do I offer? And all he had, his trunk was free, so there was a lotus flower in the lake where he had been defamed and caught by a crocodile, and he just pulled it, and it's like, this, I offer you this. And the Lord said, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take the whole thing. I'll take the crocodile off your leg. I'll take your... He finds, just like with Putana, it said that Putana was the worst because she killed children. That was her little business card she'd hand out. It's like, you want a kid killed? I'll deal with it. So Kamsa was such a dastardly person that he hired her to come over there and kill the kid Krishna. He said, baby, it shouldn't be too hard. Yeah. And Uddhava remembers Krishna's quality that, this demoness came, she took the form of a beautiful nursemaid, and everyone let her in because it's like nothing could be wrong with her. And she tried to kill him, Krishna, with deadly poison. And then he says, the character of Krishna is that even if the person has externally the worst of all apparent intentions, he'll find some little speck of good quality. And he said, well, at least she tried to act like my mother. I mean, who's going to think like that besides Krishna, Uddhava says. And then he elevated her because of that. So we got to remember who we're dealing with too. It's Krishna. He'll find a good quality where we feel that we don't have any. And so Prahlad Maharaj notices this. And he says, I'm from a demoniac family. And back then it meant a big thing. Nowadays, everyone's from a demoniac family. So it's like, yeah, it's no big deal. But back then, or even 100 years ago, in some cultures, unless you were from the right side of the track and the right genealogy, you were really persona non grata, what to speak of at that time. And he was like, who am I anyway? My father's Hiranyakashipu. And then he realized that if I'm sincere and I just try to be sincere and make a prayer, then Krishna will find something in it. And that's the whole thing. That's how his prayers start off. And he said, I'm just going to try because I know Gajendra was successful and I know the Lord doesn't care for all the embellishments. He just cares if you have a sincere heart. So how do we find our sincerity? You got to look for it. It's like those... that thing where you used to have to find that little character? Where's Waldo? I never played it, but I know that people got absorbed in that, and you try to find them in all the characters. And if you look in your heart and you try to find Waldo, like, where's my sincerity? Prabhupada told this person who asked about the same thing, he said, well, if you're looking for it, you're already sincere. So it must be in there. You wouldn't even look for it if you didn't have some sincerity. So you could just take it for granted that if you're trying to worship Krishna, that if you're trying and you keep trying, then you'll have all success. And that should encourage you to want to try it harder because his quality and consideration for devotees is so kind and gracious that we should always consider that. Okay, so we're almost done, and Radhakripa Prabhu has the last word.
Guru Maharaj, when Vaigmutta Naik, a couple of years ago, when he decided to move back to India, at that time, we had one devotee before that who moved back and unfortunately couldn't continue with his devotion service. And when I spoke about him that, only one way possibility is somehow remain connected. I think his sincerity shows. It's 11 p.m. actually in India right now, and he shows up every time. I mean, it's his humility. He's seeking about the sincerity. I think it also proves that how much in his heart sincerity is there. He's always connected virtually, and he's probably not missing anything. Even we could be missing while we are here in this room. So I just wanted to appreciate that.
There you have it. Hari Bol. Yeah. That's the other thing. Devotees, we should try to stay in the association of devotees, and it goes back to Brajaras Bhavana. Being around devotees, they'll always try to help us. Devotees do that. Even for those who have really blown it one way or another, there's always some devotees who will compassionately help. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, there's the story of Kala Krishna Das, who's with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his servant, traveling around, going to various places, and then he just totally blew it. And when they got back to Puri, Mahaprabhu held a little meeting. Kala Krishna Das was there. A few devotees were there, and he said, look at the character of this person, right in my association, he ran off and did some nefarious things. He said, I really don't have any more service for him. And Kala Krishna Das lowered his head, left the room. And then immediately the devotees started to conspire. There was Nityananda Prabhu, Mukunda, and others, and they came together with a little plan. So he went back to Mahaprabhu and said, we have this idea. We need somebody to go back to Navadvip and tell everyone that you've come back from your trip, because there's no internet back there, big surprise. Either that or it didn't work well. And so Mahaprabhu knew what they were up to, but their conspiracy was to engage Kala Krishna Das. So he said, yeah, we have the right person. And they sent him. So he got to be a big hero. He went all the way to Navadvip. Everyone took him in, and he had announced that Mahaprabhu was back. And so Prabhupada mentions there that the devotees, if we stick close to the devotees, they'll always try to help us to remain engaged in service. Anyway, we didn't get very far with the verses. We did allude to a few of them going forward, but that's how deep they are. There's so much to say about these things, and we did what we could to touch upon them for today. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, Shri Prahlad Maharaj, if you so desire, please give us the wherewithal to find whatever sincerity we have in our heart, and may we use that as an impetus to engage in your devotional service. Thank you for considering our request. And may we also see the sincerity within others' hearts as well and try to fan the spark. Thank you for letting me add that. Om Tat Sat. Everyone who agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute. Don't unmute, just put an emoji that represents your feeling. And everyone here can unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpadurusha kripasanabhevacha patitanam bhavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And now we're going to have the Guru Puja. We'll sing the Guru Vandanam, verses that glorify the spiritual master. So we'll move all the asanas and even this rug, and we'll stand up for the Guru Puja. How did I get it up there? Shall we? Yes, no? Okay. Namashreshnam manumapi shachiputram atra sarupam Shirupam tasya grajam urupuriyam maturim goshtavatim Radha kundam girivaramaho radhika madhavasham Prapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tam natosmi He Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Swanandadata Karanaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahita Avatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara He Dina Bandho Karanaika Sindho Sadam Maimanda Mudhe Laksha Parade Bahupapagade Tatpada Padmestu Matishna Krishne Tvayopayantya Pachitim Kavayasta Vesha Ramayusha Prikritam Mudham Udasmaranta Yontar Bahisthanubritam Ashubham Vadunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Yanakti. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they are endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya, and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified for the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Gati Sadma Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan. Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita. Shri Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Shiva Gopal Bhakta Das Raghunath. Desai Gosar Puri Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hote Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Desai Gosai Jar Mulitar Das. Samara Padarinu Mora Panchagras. Tandara Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Jalamecha Name Hoy Abilas. Echai Gosai Jave Rajmolabar. Radha Krishna Nijalila Koila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nijalila Koila Prakash. Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vishava. Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vishava. Shri Guru Vaishnava Padi Anjali Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koi Ash. Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Nado Samudas. One more time. Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Nado Samudas. Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Nado Samudas. Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Nado Samudas. Hare Nam Sankirtan Kohe Nado Samudas. Hare Nam Sankirtan Kohe Nado Samudas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivradikacharya Shtotaras Shishimad Abhay Charanad Avinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivradikacharya Shtotaras Shishimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Premzikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gokapinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Nam Ki Jai Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Jumana Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Sambeta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to Sundar. Gaur Prem Anande Haribo. Pavani Bhakti or JM. We'll now hear a couple of announcements regarding. Oh, I have a video first. This is an intermission while we're getting ready. We'd like to show you a video. How many here know what a bay leaf is? Bay leaf? They grow on a bay tree. They have, what kind of flavor do they have, would you say? What? Strong. Very spicy. When you cook something, maybe you put one in the whole pot. Right? Okay, now here's our cows eating California bay leaves. Get ready. Everyone, here it is. More volume, more volume. Haribo. Feel better? I know I do. Okay. Pavani Bhakti?
Hare Krishna, thank you everyone. We want to inform you about, share you about Bhakti community. It's an online community for spiritual seekers. And if you have any newcomers who you would like to enroll, please ask them to go to www.bhakticommunity.com, and there's a simple sign-up form. And as soon as they get the sign-up form, they will be informed about the various programs that are happening, and they'll get all the notifications. I want to invite, want to thank Eric for coming. Yesterday he came to the mantra zone, and we inspired him to come to the temple. And here he is, Eric, so please welcome him. He was so happy yesterday after he ate the prasadam. He came to me. He was making one more plate to go. And he says, I have no idea how this food is made. Can you show me everything, how you made it? Like, can you write it down for me? So I said, yeah, I will give him some recipes. So if you get some time and spend some time with him today and share some of your favorite recipes, he wants to learn a lot. And I also want to thank, actually, you all know, Robin over there in the corner behind, in front of Krishangi Mataji. She's our dear Vicky's mom, in case you all did not know. She looks like her sister only, but I want to especially acknowledge her today because she has been regularly coming and she even started attending our reading sessions now. And for your information, she chants 16 rounds regularly, and she and Vicky very, very positively keep reinforcing themselves and thereby inspiring all of us. So I feel so fortunate. Where is Kautuk Karna Prabhu? But he's the one instrumental for Vicky and her progress. So thank you, Kautuk Karna Prabhu, and her mom is very much really a good devotee, and we are so happy that she's part of our community. And one quick one, where is Reshma? Reshma onboarded a newcomer and would like her to share some of her experience.
Hare Krishna devotees. So I came across a really, really amazing person when I was traveling from Boston to San Francisco. On the plane, I was reading one of Shubhavilas Prabhu's Ramayana series, and the person sitting next to me was very inquisitive. She turned to me and asked, can you tell me what's there in that book? And it looks really good. And so I started giving her a little bit of gist about the Ramayana, and she was like, I want to know more. Where can I get this book? And I sent her the links to the Amazon where she can find the book, and I also invited her to join our online club, which meets and talks about books like these. And she was very excited. She, for the first time, joined this Thursday, and she had already finished reading three parts in that book by in 3 weeks. So she was making amazing. I was very inspired by what she was doing, and she was sharing so much wisdom and so much. She even mentioned Kautuk Karna Prabhu was there in the room. He was the person who was leading our discussion, and she even mentioned the 4 important qualities of dharma, which are austerity, simplicity, cleanliness, and truthfulness. So she started talking about all the really, really inspiring quotes that she read from the book and all her reflections and realizations. And I thank you so much, Pavani Mataji and Jayam Prabhu, for hosting the whole session and bringing lots of amazing people from all over the world. She's from New York, by the way. And yeah, lots of people from the world and helping us share the knowledge that we receive. Thank you.
Now we have Team ISV's book distribution with our co-Sankirtan leader, Malini Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna. We started our next MSF for 2024, which is starting with Nityananda Prabhu's appearance day. And this MSF, we are organizing our MSFs. We are reflecting on what we did well in 2023 and what can be improved in 2024. Along with that, we are also working towards our goal for our Gaur Purnima MSF, for Be a Gardener, where we have to distribute at least 108 Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. We were just recently reading, and Srila Prabhupada, he was translating the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. That was his life mission. He started in Vrindavan and then came all the way to US too, and he kept on translating. But at a certain point, even though the Bhagavatam was not finished, he paused. He paused and he said that he wants to finish the entire Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we can realize how important it was for Srila Prabhupada to translate the Chaitanya Charitamrita first, even before finishing the Srimad Bhagavatam, because he wanted to give the Siddhanta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that entire series of 9 books. And not only that, when Chaitanya Charitamrita was translated, it was printed, and it was also printed for mass distribution. For those who read Chaitanya Charitamrita can understand how philosophically some portions of it is esoteric, but Prabhupada said that this is for mass distribution. So we are very, very fortunate that we have a whole palette just arrived a few days ago, full of Chaitanya Charitamrita sets, which have been translated by Srila Prabhupada, giving much more importance than translating Srimad Bhagavatam, with colored pictures of different temples that is nicely put together in 9-volume series. It's available only for $99. I mean, it is actually a steal. We are thinking of increasing the prices because of the shipping and everything. But just because Mahaprabhu is so merciful, we wanted to keep the price at $99 for now. Let's see, so that we can give more and more of these sets to others. So please do avail this wonderful opportunity. The sets are in the parking lot, but please don't stampede and and make sure that the tent is intact, because that is saving all the books from getting wet. That was the announcement for distributing Chaitanya Charitamrita. And today we also have a special event, which is a rally for the opening of Ram Janmabhoomi, the Ayodhya temple in Ayodhya, back in Ayodhya, after 500 years of waiting and so many lost lives of wonderful devotees, so much of devotion, so much of affection for Lord Ram being put in, and the opening is tomorrow. So there is a rally that is going on, organized by the local, I think, groups who are supporting the Ram Janmabhoomi. So some devotees are going in the rally, and some of them are going to set a book table there at the beginning side, at the end side, as well as at the transitions. So if you want to participate in our way of showing appreciation for Lord Ram by distributing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Ramayan books, you can contact Kautu Karna Prabhu, or you can contact Haldarupa Prabhu, who is actually driving all the way. So he's going to distribute books through the rally as well. So that is one spot. Actually multiple spots, but one same event. And we have books going out to Indian stores in Cupertino, and as well as in Fremont. Last week we were busy here cooking something very small for the devotees, but Achyuta Kumar Prabhu and all the other devotees went out to Indian store, and I believe they distributed 11 Chaitanya Charitamritas. Wow. Is that correct? 9. Okay, today they will make up the 11, but but they distributed 9 Chaitanya Charitamritas. It is very simple to distribute Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially because what Vaisesika Prabhu says is that whatever Krishna taught in Bhagavad Gita, saying that Sarva Dharman Parityaja, he said, surrender unto me, but he didn't show how to surrender. But Chaitanya Charitamrita is stories of all the devotees who have taught us how to surrender to Krishna. So you can just use that line if you like, or many other lines from the books. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Any other announcements? Yes, Kennedy.
There is one important announcement. I don't know if I see Krishna Saka Prabhu here. Oh, okay. So Krishna Saka Prabhu and his dear wife Kamalakshi Radha, she's also here. They went on a 2-week traveling Sankirtan. They went to different places up north. And I saw the scores that of the books they distributed and the nice people that they met. Okay. And thank you, Prabhu. And I want to request if you would like to come and share at least one experience on how you like the book distribution up north, especially traveling Sankirtan in the van that you see parked outside. It's not very nice. It's a little austere, but to both of them actually have went for 2 weeks. So, Prabhu, would you like to say something?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances, Guru Maharaj, Guru Ma, and dear devotees. Yes, I mean, we went for 2 weeks. It is, I mean, by score-wise, it is less than what devotees do here by afternoon. But it was amazing. It was amazing. We saw Krishna's hands. It was incredible. In every step we went, it was snowing and raining. But, we went to universities where students were so receptive. They were standing in the lines for getting the books. And on the side, there were other philosophies going, distributing free food and free drinks, but nobody was going there. And also, there was an ice storm, but it was, I think it came after 5 years, but it was arranged for us. Because when we went to distribute the books, everybody was there. It was like a fair. So Krishna arranged everything, and we met so many nice people. They were appreciating it so much. Temperature was in 20s, but then they were so much appreciating that you are here, you are volunteering. We are out because we want food and guests, but you are volunteering to make our life better. So they were appreciating it so much. They were taking the books and sharing the context and giving donations. So it was very nice. I would like to thank all the leaders and Malin Mataji, SKB Prabhu, Haladarupa Prabhu for encouraging us, my mentors, and Pavni Bhakti Mataji and Jayam Prabhu for giving us the Bhakti community where we can bring. We met so many nice people who will be interested in joining. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Would you like to say anything, Kamalakshi Radha? No? She's very quiet, but I saw so many pictures of her distributing books and Bhagavatam set as well. So thank you so much for doing this.
Actually, sorry, I forgot. I was working, and all the scores, the distribution and cooking and driving and everything was done by her. So thank you so much.
You mean driving the van? Driving the van? Wow. So we will come to you for the lessons on how to drive a big van. I don't know if there is another announcement that is being made, but I had one announcement. I want to make sure it's not the same. Okay. Today is Sharad Bihari Mukunda Prabhu's birthday. I know he was here somewhere.
He's doing seva.
Oh. He's always doing service in the background. So he's right now lifting the chairs and sending them outside. So.
Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you. I didn't expect this. Should I say speech?
Speech.
Thank you. I mean, last year of 26 was interesting for me, and a lot of devotees blessed me so that I can come back. Me and Priyakishori can come back to the Bay Area, and the blessings worked. So thank you. I'm just happy to be here. 27, keep serving, be under Guru Maharaj's guidance, and keep serving Madan Mohan and the devotees. So thank you. Please bless me going forward as well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I know we're hungry, so I'll be quick. We have a Bhakti Farms Farm Day next week on the 27th. If you guys want to come, just come right after Bhagavatam class. come hang out with the cows. You saw how fluffy they are. They love to lick you. Being around the cows has actually made me realize that Krishna is probably covered in cow saliva most of the time because they're so affectionate and they just love hugs and warmth and they love to be fed and pet. It's catered, there's prasadam, there's wonderful company. In fact, the more of you show up, the more wonderful company there is. And we'd love to have you. So if you need any of that information, please come find me. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam was cooked by Shama Bhakta Prabhu, Purushottam Gauranga Prabhu, Hitesh Prabhu, Ramapriya Prabhu, Krishna Prabhu, and Govind Sharan Prabhu.
Shari Rajaja Jodendriya Kahika Divepele Vijaya Sakale Karma Divayati Lova Sudunati Sake Jeta Bhagavad Shima Prasad Ki Gopremanande Nitai Gaura Hari Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Please come take prasadam. Picnic area. $1 million wall. Please enjoy your $1 million breakfast. Hare Krishna.